So it's a lovely, peaceful and tranquil morning here in North Yorkshire. There wasn't a strong suggestion of fog in the forecast, but I thought I'd take my chances because there was some lovely mist kicking around in the hills yesterday. So I've come to Woodland, which is a little bit higher. I've been here many times. It's a favourite spot of mine, and I'm so glad that I chose this area because the fog is lovely. It's incredibly calm and quiet. There's not a breath of wind. All the spring birds are out, so there's lots of song. So it's a really lovely, peaceful, therapeutic atmosphere. But there's a bit of a theme for today because at Christmas time I watched Lord of the Rings, as I do quite often at Christmas time, but actually this was the first time I watched it as a woodland photographer, and it was absolutely fascinating. Just Fangorn Forest and all the Ents. It was just lovely cinematic viewing, and I love films like that where there's this kind of feeling of an enchanted forest where it comes to life, and it just lets your imagination run wild and gives me a good source of inspiration and kind of gets me lost in my own sort of thoughts and feelings when I come out into a woodland. So I wanted to kind of use Lord of the Rings as a bit of an inspiration because I've done this in the past, and so I wanted to kind of redo it for the purpose of a video. And the idea being that I just want to take photographs in a 16:9 aspect ratio for that kind of cinematic feel, and I'm only going to photograph what I perceive to be Ent characters. So, you know, your treebeards and things like that. And it's just a bit of fun, to be honest, but it also encourages a little bit of creativity by giving yourself those constraints. And I talked about this in a recent video about these creative constraints, but also giving yourself a theme, a purpose, a flow to your work on the day. And it's just, rather than just running around and taking random photographs, it gives me some structure. And then hopefully I can get 3 or 4 images which kind of sit well together as a little body of work from the day, if you like. So this is my first one here, my little Ent. It's not one that I'm going to call treebeard. It's one that I photographed before. I've never put it in a video, but it's a nice start. It's nice and simple. Essentially what I'm looking for is these really kind of old, wise, characterful trees which, you know, kind of clearly look like Ents that could come alive, and they really need to kind of stand out from the surrounding woodland, which this one does. Much more old, gnarly, covered in this kind of algae which is shining really nicely in the fog. And then all the trees that surround it are very kind of straight and uniform, so it makes this one stand out more. And the good thing about the 16:9 aspect ratio is that it makes me want to concentrate on just the area of the tree that I'm interested in, and then give it some breathing room, give it a sense of place, and then also cut out the sky and any distracting elements. So I'm not looking to photograph a whole tree, just the kind of most obvious parts of interesting character. There's all this bilberry bush as well, which has all that kind of fresh spring leaf growth, which is very vibrant. I'm quite happy for that to come through in the final image, because I want mood and atmosphere, but I don't want it to be too grungy. You know, I want to kind of give that mood for these Ent characters, but it's just such a peaceful and calm morning. I want to be quite respectful to that. So yeah, let's have a wander. Hopefully get a few images together which sit well as a series, and see how we go on. So I've come across my second Ent. I don't have a name for this one because I don't know any of the Ent names other than treebeard. And treebeard is kind of my original one, which is further down in the valley there. So this one, yeah, I'll have to look up a name for it afterwards. But it's a lovely tree. I've passed it many times. I've photographed it a couple of times with clients in the past. And what's really nice about it is that it just sits on the woodland edge. And when it's foggy like this, that's the type of thing that I'm looking for, is to work on the woodland edges or in the thick of the woodland where there's openings in the canopy, because it just sort of sucks the light down, and the idea being that we can bring out all the nice natural colours, texture and detail in the subject. So this one's illuminated quite nicely, and then it stands out quite nicely against the darkness of the woodland in the background. And it's got some lovely features to it because it kind of comes off in all these different trunks, but then we've got this branch that leans off over to the left and then hangs down and almost creates this frame around this opening and this lovely recession of linear trees down into the distance where there's a little spot of light. And I like that. It's just a second component. So the image is very much about the character of the tree, but just having that depth just gives it another point of interest and perhaps holds the attention for a little bit longer. And over on the right hand side there's a snapped branch which has been hanging down for years now. It's still clinging on, and that's something else that's quite interesting that helps to frame the right. And there's nothing really distracting going on in terms of spots of light from the sky, so we can really just make this character stand out. So yeah, it works quite well. And white balance, I don't typically mention this, but it is important, I think. I know you can change your white balance afterwards in Lightroom, but I prefer a workflow where I choose a white balance which captures what I see with my own eyes, and then if I don't look at the photograph for a few weeks, I know by my own workflow when I look at it in Lightroom, well, that's how it looked, now I'll do what I like. I find it quite useful because the tonal contrast in the scene, when I change through the different white balance options, really makes a big difference. So I'm shooting daylight at the minute because that's giving me a nice tonal contrast, all the nice natural greens, the coolness of the blue in the fog is coming through. So yeah, I mean, I might change it afterwards, but at least I know that's how it looked. So yeah, focus on the tree, F8, job done. So this is my original treebeard character. I'll try and make this quick because I have photographed it in a previous video, but in that one the fog had dissipated quite quickly, where it's remained fairly dense here now, so there's a little bit more mood and a little bit more atmosphere. And I'm continuing with the same theme of the cinematic 16:9 aspect ratio, which does work quite well for this. And apart from kind of using the movies as inspiration, the actual theme here obviously is quite apt for what I do, but the end characters themselves are very slow and very purposeful, and that kind of sits quite well, I think, with how I like to approach photography. So the fog is still here, it's very peaceful. I could hear a cuckoo in the background there. The birds are singing, so I'm more than happy to keep it slow, keep it purposeful, take my time, and just really take my time over the decisions that I make and the pictures which I take. So I'm more interested in the lower part of this tree where we've got these kind of big arms just hanging down, and I'm not interested in bringing in the whole tree, just the bit that I particularly like. Take out the distracting sky, bring in quite a bit of space over to the right just to kind of give it a sense of place, some space, and then bring in some of the depth in the woodland back there. And we've got this lovely opening in the woodland here, so all the light's just been drawn down into this edge, brings out all the colour and character of this, and then it helps it stand out against the darkness of the background. So it is a lovely tree. I really like it. I think this is better than the version that I took when I first filmed this, but I do have another version which I took last year, so if I prefer that, then I'll put that up too. But yeah, cuckoo's still there, but I think I'd like to try and get one more shot. Let's see what you make of this one. Well, the fog started to dissipate now and the midges have descended. That's the first I've seen of them this year, so they're starting to bite, so I think it's probably time for me to call it a morning. It's been a bit of a short episode, but I hope you've enjoyed it and found some value in it. You know, we look to all sorts of different forms of art for a source of inspiration, but I do find movies, films to be a great source of motivation for me to come out and create videos myself. But if it gives me these ideas to come out and create a theme for my work and give me these creative constraints, then that can only be a good thing. And apart from anything else, it's just good fun, you know, good fun to kind of be inspired by these mythical characters that I see on screen and come and try and kind of capture my own version. It's great for your imagination. Like I said, it's just a bit of fun. But I've captured a couple of shots that I think I quite like, so that's a bonus, really. But yes, thank you very much for watching this episode. Actually, if you've got any good ideas for films I should be watching, for whether it's for woodland inspiration or any kind of landscape photography, then please let me know in the comments. But thank you very much again, and as always, I hope to see you for the next one.